This is Duke University.
In 1516, the rulers of a prosperous city in Europe, in Venice, decided to herd the people of one race into a small island in Venice, where they were able to totally control and restrict access. It was as if these people had the plague and needed to be quarantined. By the fact their disease was that they were Jewish, and the island has a name that we all know, ghetto. So 500 years later, in 2006, the Jewish state of Israel decided to withdraw its illegal settlements from Gaza and seal it off with fences and military guarded gates. The tanks are lined up along the borders. The gunboats are floating on the Mediterranean 3 miles away. And the fighter jets are hovering in the sky, all ready to shoot. They herd its captive people into a beachside prison with no freedom and dependent on food and medicine and power from outside. They too were and are treated as if they had the plague and needed to be quarantined. Their disease was the fact that they were Arabs, they were Palestinians, and they were Gazans. 3 strikes and you are out. Gaza is the new ghetto, pure and simple. What was done to the Jews in 1516 in Venice is what the Jewish state is doing to the Gazan people now. The people who suffered ghettos and pogroms and genocide have turned their word ghetto into our word Gaza. The Jewish state inflicts on us what was inflicted on them. Gaza is the new ghetto. Gaza is the new pogrom. Gaza is a place of a slow genocide. The only 2 choices one faces there are to die fast or to die slow. Gaza is the new ghetto, a place of 2 million people who the United Nations estimates are a year away from a total famine. Gaza is the new ghetto, where 4,000 people lost their lives in the last 10 years by all kinds of bombardments and weapons of mass destruction. Gaza is the new ghetto, where over 10,000 people lost their houses in the last war and living in shelters whom Israel called collateral damage. Gaza is the new ghetto, where the unemployment rate for under 25s is over 68%, where there are 4 hours of electricity a day, where acute medical cases die every day because Israel won't allow them to leave for treatment. Gaza is the new ghetto, where brilliant students get a scholarship to universities in the US and the UK, but had to wait years and years to get permission. I had to wait for 3 years to get out of the ghetto. Gaza is what the powerful do to the powerless, to break their spirit, to break the will of the peoples, to resist, to create division and despair. But as these films will show you, they're not succeeding, which means that Gaza means ghettos, and Gaza also means Warsaw Ghetto. It means heroic resistance. Gaza means resilience. It means people's courage to keep their humanity amid so much inhumanity. That's why I'm so proud to be from Gaza, and why I think that our fate is intertwined with yours. As the great Martin Luther King said, all of us are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what I ought to be, and you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. And he said also, if one person is unfree, then we are all unfree. Thank you.
Do you think artists in Gaza feel compelled to talk about, uh, in like being the voice of all Gazans about what is going on, or do you think there is more freedom for artists to explore other areas that are not linked to the occupation?
Where artists are trying to be the voice of the Gaza Strip right now. Um, it's very true that there are a lot of artists, a lot of creative people there, but with the tough situation now, it's been 10 years since Israel imposed the blockade on Gaza, and I'm telling you, they're losing hope. They're for the first time we're witnessing suicidal attempts by people and especially artists. So either you get killed by an airplane and a fighter jet, or you kill yourself because you cannot bear the situation. So I call Gaza as a ticking bomb for all of us, and it's ticking right now, and the artists, like, they're losing it as well.
Where do the artists, because these are really, really good artists, graffiti artists, where were they trained? Do they train themselves? You as filmmakers, where were you trained? And yeah, that would be my question.
So we are the generation of the second Intifada and then the blockade. So we our interactions with the outside world is little, if it's not any. So I personally have never lived this trip before. I've been to Egypt one time to do my interview to come to America, but like mainly we are not allowed to leave this trip. So so they call it open air prison, but even the air is not open anymore. Um, so so what the artists do is we having, thank God, internet in Gaza. So we have 4 hours of electricity. So we use 1 hour to do our laundry, and the second hour to pump water on our rooftops, and the rest of the 2 hours to open YouTube and see the recent movies around the world, and see the great artists, follow them, and then try to imitate them, and then create our own version from Gaza. So basically, their connection is from the internet, from YouTube.
Then my question is, in the middle of all this blockade, physical blockade, but I think there's freedom in other ways, right? Creativity and the spirit, and there's some other connectivity. Are there still these networks of solidarity? Because I know through street art and audiovisual small workshops, things happen, very limited, but
Yeah, in the previous years, when the siege was imposed, there was groups mainly from Europe, like Norwegian, from Norway and from Italy, um, coming and like for doing musical workshop, teaching the Gazan kids some music, and also a little bit on films. Um, it was like a few, like like maybe 3 groups or 4 groups mainly that you can talk about. But after the second war, mainly after the last war, 2014, it's like Israel like banned anyone to get in. You need to apply like 6 months before, and then in your dreams to get any permission. So basically, after the last war, it's like almost zero interactions from the outside world, which is very sad.